Thanks for speaking to Tehelka. So, Irfan Sahib, I just want to ask you the question about music and Islam. Whenever music has been quoted in Quran or in reference to Islam, like how it should be taken in Islam. So the question is to you is that do you think that it is proper, passing judgments on music and life or culture in a court of in a religious court? Where do you think that we should draw the line?
Let me begin by saying that this whole idea that music is haram in Islam, and we cite Quran and hadiths and all that to make that point. I think that is basically un-Islamic. The Quran, there is not a single verse in Quran which speaks anything of that sort. There is nothing, exactly nothing. And there are so many prophetic traditions which indicate how music was central to Islam in the early years itself, during Prophet's lifetime itself. It is only after about 100 years, maybe 50 years after the death of the Prophet, and after all these ulamas who came forward and took some control over matters Islamic, that lots of these things, in music included, comes in. And whenever there is something negative about music, there are lots of things negative during Prophet's time itself. But those negative things have a context. And we just cannot see those statements or those hadiths without the context in which they were made. And we cannot generalize. That is the main problem today, is that we pick and choose things against music and similarly against so many other issues without looking at the proper context of those hadiths, of those sayings. That is the main problem.
Okay. We'll just quote the Mufti Bashir Deen, Grand Mufti of Kashmir. He just made a statement about Pragaash, the girls bands from Kashmir, saying that it's regarding to music and Islam, saying that it's an un-Islamic act. So music will not help in bringing a constructive role in society. So what you have to say about it? Like, does it have to do something in regards to the like being constructive towards society?
No, I think it's a totally disconnected. There's total disconnect between building a society and the role of music. How music can be destructive? I just don't see, because if you go back, because I can again go back to what I said earlier. When the Mufti says this, he is hinting at sayings of the Prophet, where Prophet says that, and he said this regarding the pre-Islamic music, the pagan music, pagan Arab music, which was linked to lots of obscene behavior among the population, pre-Islamic population of the Arab world. And the Prophet wanted the new converts, the new believers, the new Muslims to keep away from that sort of music. So there are hadiths where he says that one has to keep away from this sort of music. It doesn't mean that he said, no, you keep away from music at all, or from music completely. So that he never mentioned anywhere. Never says anything of that sort. That is the problem. We just don't want to see the context of all those sayings. Those sayings were in a particular context.
Muslims are globally, considered to be it's the second largest population, or most probably the number one largest population in the world right now. And when such kind of incidents happen, do you think that it brings Muslims again in limelight, that they are extremists or fundamentalists? What would be your opinion on this?
See, these are things which were actually almost fringe happenings till a couple of years ago. But today, with the media exposure, with the way things are picked up by media, I don't think it's such a serious matter. But at national level, it is being debated, and when it is being debated, obviously it becomes a totally Islamic issue and a global issue, and we put all these incidents in global context of Islam, the way Islam is today all over. So this becomes part of that particular thinking, the conservative thinking, the fanatical attitude towards everything, traditional attitude, something against modernity, something against women's freedom. All these issues are actually clubbed, and such things are raised, and rightly so. One has to see all these things in the context of what is happening to Islam, the way we are actually behaving as Muslims. So what is this?
What do you think would have been most probably wrong with with this time, at this point in time, because there have been female singers from Kashmir before as well,
Yeah, Lal
like
Ded and all. Yeah,
Lal
of
Ded,
course.
Kailash Mehra, and there have been a band of 7 girls that I can quote a recent story. Like it was
Exactly.
done in 2010 by Parvez Bukhari. It was a
Yeah.
story about the girls band, and it was 7 girls who were performing who have performed the music. So why do you think why only Pragaash? Why this time?
I don't see, it's not Pragaash alone. This today, what is happening in Kashmir is part of the global change in the whole attitude towards Islam. And this is not Islam itself. Look at Hinduism. Like today, Hinduism is not the Hinduism which I saw during my childhood and my younger days. Similarly, Islam. So all religions are actually changing. All religions, instead of actually growing, they are going back. No? So it's happening all over. Islam being a global religion comes, and then a multinational religion with 50 plus nations and Islamic nations, and then conflict with the Western powers, etc., political conflicts, etc., becomes more problematic. But this is true of Hinduism itself. We see that every day.
Can you like I've read a story on Pragaash before, and it was done by NDTV. It was last year in 2011 that they have performed in a musical show called Battle of Bands, and which was organized by CRPF or the armed forces. So do you think that it has something to do with their performance in Battle of Bands or in such a program?
I have no idea. I can't say anything on that because
Because if we compare other incidents, other female singers in Kashmir, they have never faced any problem and they have been accepted widely with open hearts. Why Pragaash?
actually I have no clue to that. I have no idea at all. But there may be some link. I don't know. But I see it as part of this global change in the attitude of people, because there are lots of things happening in Islam and Hinduism which are not happening 10 years or 15 years, 20 years before. But, so that is a major issue.
Okay. Let's talk about freedom of speech and expression. Like there has been a huge debate going on all the media channels across India about freedom of speech and expression. And then there was a statement actually which was made by the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Omar Abdullah, saying that he is in full support of the girl bands, and like in his government, and there has been like instances of like media channels, like local media TV channels, who are still that the ban is still on, then they cannot relay news. So do you think there is some kind of difference between like there's some specific ways of saying that what freedom of expression is in India, because there are specific issues which are taken and then they are dealt as if this is only freedom of speech and expression, while there are other issues when the whole media and the states are completely numb.
Yeah, well, that is possible. Well, we are very selectively very selectively do that many times, and maybe Omar Abdullah has done that in this case. And, he may not be as supportive of freedom of expression earlier in other cases you pointed out, but here in this case he has very categorically come out the support, and one doesn't know what is his this thing. Maybe his personal this thing with music, and he feels strongly that music is very central to Islam, to support that.
Do you think it is something to do with the gaining political mileage in Kashmir or elsewhere?
Political mileage, he can gain political mileage only if I have no idea if there is some organic support for this band or for these girls.
Because as I've just quoted, because I just quoted you and like local news channels, they are not allowed to relay news, so that is also freedom of speech and expression. And when these girls were kind of disbanded from to perform again in musical shows, So do you think that there's selective approach in freedom of speech and expression?
No, I'm saying, no, I agree. I agree with that. He may be selective in this, but I'm saying he can gain political mileage only when he strongly feels that there is a huge mass support for these girls. Otherwise, he would have gone along with the Mufti, because if there is a mass support for the Mufti and his stand, and Kashmir being a 90%, Valley being a 90% Islamic state, he could have actually seen himself along with that group. But that means that there is a mass support, and he feels that he will get political mileage out of it, at least from the young girls and boys.
Do you see Grand Mufti's statement, like banning the girls band or advising them not to perform singing? It's just un-Islamic. Do you think this is, this adds to the problems of Muslims across globe, because the mentality of other religions would always think that Muslims are extremists?
Yeah, that is a major danger. That is the message which goes across. Like, I am seeing this since morning. People mock. People enjoy this. People revel. Let's see one more instance. See how Islam is, how their muftis are. This is how they think. So this is something which adds to the negativity around Islam. That is something very, very sad. It shouldn't happen. And which is very obvious. Obviously, it will lead to some sort of this sort of thinking. For me, as I pointed out earlier, there are debates. There are lots of things which are like Quran itself is a very ambiguous text. There are verses. That's why there are so many commentaries on Quran. So many commentaries which don't agree with each other. Quran is same. Text is same. There is no change in it. It is a way we interpret lots of verses, ayats of Quran, and the way different scholars have used or interpreted it in their own way. So similarly, you can find support for your argument for or against any issue, and music in this case. So I have my own prophetic traditions which I can use. I can use Quranic verses, etc. Somebody else can come and do that. So that game will never end, and I don't think we need to get into that debate at all, because that's a total waste of time. That serves hardly any purpose. Now, if you go back to history, which Maulana Abul Kalam Azad has also written in his work, Mullah Abdul Qadir Bajawani, despite being a conservative and a Maulvi, was an expert flute player. He used to play bansuri, and he was an expert. He never bothered. He never thought that what he is doing is something un-Islamic. It never struck him. It was not there at all. So these debates come in much later. They were not there in medieval times. There were so many, and I can give you many other examples like this. Now people say they were all courtiers. What courtiers? They were Maulvis also. They were scholars. They wrote books on Islam, on Islamic history. So they were not lay believers. They were scholars. So there are so many examples like this. Maulana Azad himself was an expert sitar player, who was a trained sitar player. He learned playing sitar for 3 years and has written extensively on music. So there are lots of people, there are lots of instances from history where you can find out that music has been very, very central to Islam.